So with that, the Twitch, right? I just don't want to forget this. Now we've warmed up a little bit. I was watching the
Hmm.
clips from our part one, and there was something that you said you would talk about in the part two. And
Okay.
I'm really hoping we could discuss that because like there's a bunch of people here now, and I'm feeling it. But it's about the Junos and being a judge for that. And you were like, I'll do that in the part two. And I'm like, that's fantastic. I'm glad I reminded myself of that, of me in the past watching this. So, like, how did you get involved in that? Because that's like a wild thing. You said 7 years you were involved in
Yeah.
the
I
judging of
was
it.
on the I was on the panel for the judging for the rap category for the Junos. How it came to be was you know, when I had the opportunity on the radio station, it's one thing that it opened doors for me, but then it's what do you do once those doors are open? And I reached out to everybody. So I started plugging in to all the people that I needed to plug into in Toronto. And I started getting a rapport with the labels. I knew the label reps here in Montreal. I went further and I started to introduce myself to the label reps in Toronto. So I built up a little network. And at that time, they were like, wow, okay, we got this dude now that we're communicating with. We want to know how these records are doing in Montreal. We want to know what's hot in Montreal. So I was that guy that I would give them a top 20 or top 25, I think it was. I used to do this bi-weekly, and I would type it out, send it to them. What's hot, what's not, what's working in the clubs, what's working in the radio. And I did this for a period of time, and they said, well, listen, they're
How
like,
did
Montreal.
how did you
Mhm.
get how did you determine what was hot and not? Like how did you get that information?
Well, for one, I'm on the radio. I'm on the radio 4 nights a week, 6 hours. So you start to get a feel for what people are requesting, what people are getting into. And then on top of that, I'm DJing in the clubs 2, 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. So I'm visually seeing what's hot. So it was very easy for me to make the determination. I put together a legit list that really represented our city.
Okay. So basically because of the position you were in, you were just tapped in well enough and were collecting that data in general. Were you like tracking it in any kind of formal way? Or was it just like, yeah, I noticed this, I noticed that? Or did it become like something you were actively focused on?
I wasn't saying like, I can't say that I was tracking it, like, writing down, keeping the data and all that, but I did make note of what people were requesting. And then I would make note of like, okay, this song is getting requested X amount of times in a show or X amount of times in a week. Or I would be in the clubs playing and you're like, okay, you try different things and you see, okay, this is really blowing up. This artist is making a lot of noise. This album's getting a lot of attention. And you went forward with that. And I would base my charts based on that. And I guess whatever I said to them made sense to them. And then down the line, I don't even know if it was after 6 months or whatever, they said, listen, Montreal is the second biggest market in Canada. And they're like, we have no representation. It's time that we open up the Junos and get more representation. They're like, plus there's the huge French scene out there that's underrepresented in terms of with the Junos. And they asked me if I would get on board. And I was like, hell yeah, why not? Sure.
So once you get into the Juno vibe, like what is it that the Junos cares about? I guess like what do you guys look at as a Juno judge?
It doesn't go into, we didn't get into, I would think that it would be, the quality of the music or anything like that. There was just very simple criteria that they looked at. They wanted to know the time period of when the album was released, that it was, 100% like a Canadian product. And, there was other little legalities that it had to make sure, you were signed to SOCAN and stuff like that. Little legalities that it was a legit album and if it qualified for an album. So we would sit there. I would go to Toronto. They would fly me out to Toronto. I would go to Toronto, and they would just open up a box with a stack of music, and we weren't listening to it. Like they would pass the CDs around. We would look at it, look at the credits in the back, and we would determine what was worthy to make the cut.
So you guys literally judged the CDs by the cover, not like hype or what?
No, no. It's not. It wasn't blind like that. We went through it. We went through the covers and the liner notes. We just wanted to see who the artists were, but also make sure that it met the certain criteria. We had a list
this
of things.
was not necessarily about determining who was gonna win. It was more at a
No,
qualification level to be considered.
exactly,
Okay, I understand.
exactly. Yeah, and then when after that stage, then it went to a blind panel. Like they were anonymous. It went to another panel that listened to the songs then to determine. But we we were at the stage, at the judging stage, we determined if you're eligible to then go on to be considered for winning a Juno.
Okay, so after you get vetted then, and is the criteria hard? Like, let's say you just coming into the game, is it worth applying for a Juno?
When I came back, I was so happy that I was a part of it because it's a very simple process. And I don't think much has changed. And I don't think a lot of artists in the city even knew this at the time. I wasn't aware of it. People were just able to go online. The link is there. Anybody could apply. I don't know. I think it was $30 back then. I'm not even sure what it was. And that was it. Like, there was not a whole lot to it. And you would make it in that pile to be considered for a Juno. And they told me, they're like, we don't understand. We don't get any submissions from Montreal. So they brought me in to bring that number up, to help them bring that number up because it was very underrepresented. All of the submissions were basically Toronto, and you'd get the occasional that came from out west, a couple maybe from Van City, a couple from Alberta, but it was like 90% Toronto. So then I came in there and we started bringing up, and I started showing the Montreal guys, I'm like, guys, it's not that hard to be considered for this. Like, people just didn't understand the process. And once they did, some good amount jumped on board.
That's interesting. Like, I mean, I can tell you I've never heard anybody I know personally in the hip-hop game go for a Juno. I mean, that I know personally. Not that I know, because I don't know who's gone for a Juno. I looked it up at one point, and I think it's like $100 now. But even still, it's not like, I mean, that's nothing, all things considered. It's not even like a number that's stress. And like, I think a lot of us don't pursue a Juno because in the back of your mind, you're like, I ain't sold shit. and
there's sales didn't come into a part of being eligible.
I mean, it preach as a few of us apply doesn't mean you're getting chosen though. I mean, that's fair. I just like, I'm saying it's one of those things where like, I guess you have moments where you're like, how is it like nobody I've talked to is like been like, yo, I went for that Juno this year, and like nobody ever talked to.
I think people just didn't know how.
And then to think that they want us to do it, you know, like that feels like a cash grab. I suppose, yeah, if you're putting up $100 and you're not getting anything out of it, that does feel like a cash grab. But at the end of the day, you know what? I don't.
Well, listen, hold on. I mean, just to address that, you have to remember the people that are sitting down, they're label heads. It's label heads. It's other radio people that are there. So let's say you don't get chosen for the Juno. There's no guarantee that you're going to be chosen for the Juno, but your name then goes into, you're increasing awareness of who you are. I discovered a lot of artists getting their CDs there that I would have never heard about. So then, boom, I might go and look up that artist. I might be interested to start playing that artist's music. So the Juno might be the end all of what you hope to get out of it, but it's still, you're exposing yourself to people in the industry that possibly could do something for you.
That's fair. Honestly, I never thought I'd win a Juno, but I certainly want a nomination. Like, I want my name on TV next to Drake so Drake can beat me.